Hey everybody, how's it going? For the past 8 years on this channel, I've discussed something called right to repair. Right to repair is the concept that you should be able to work on your own devices, you should be able to fix your own devices, and you should have an option other than the manufacturer for repairing those devices. It's also the concept that the manufacturer should not be able to go out of their way and restrict your ability to repair your own device. Unfortunately, over the past 10 to 20 years, this has been what's gone on more and more. It's not simply about MacBooks that I talk about as a MacBook repair shop. Whether you are a farmer that wants to work on your own tractor, whether you are someone that wants to fix endoscopes for hospitals so that hospitals can put equipment back into circulation again in a manner that allows them to offer a more affordable service than what we have in U.S. healthcare right now, whether you're in the military and want to be able to fix equipment in the Marine Corps, this is something that is permeating every aspect of our culture, this lack of repairability, where the manufacturer restricts your ability to work on the product. And this is something that I have tried to push back against in two ways. The first is I will make videos showing you how to fix all these different products, teaching people how to do the repairs that I do here on a regular basis. And the second is I push for something called right to repair legally. The right to repair bill would start to break down the barriers that are keeping people like me or the farmers or the medical repair people and so on and so forth from being able to fix these devices. And over the past 6 years, in spite of there being lots of consumer optimism towards this type of legislation, we have been shut down every single time. Over the past 6 years that I have testified or lobbied or spoken in front of legislative bodies, it always ends the same way. Sometimes they will misinterpret the bill and read it as something that it's not, and I don't get to say anything back. Sometimes someone who runs a car dealership will be the head of the consumer protection chair, where we're trying to help you have someone but the dealership as an option. And on other times, they will just literally laugh us out of the room. I'm tired of being laughed at. I'm done with being laughed at. In 2012 in Massachusetts, they passed something called the Automotive Right to Repair. This is a bill that did something very similar to what we're asking for here, but it covers cars so that you could take your car to an independent mechanic and ensure that the independent mechanic would be able to have the tools necessary to be able to fix your car so you're not stuck going to the dealer. And in 2020, they closed a loophole in that bill. The reason that they were able to do that is because they did something called a direct ballot initiative. A direct ballot initiative means that people, not politicians, get to vote on whether something becomes a law. So regardless of whether a lobbyist shows up and says Mactrometers will explode, data will go out, security, fat, the think of the children, it doesn't matter if a lying lobbyist is able to scare a misinformed politician, because a direct ballot initiative means that you, the voter, get to choose if something passes or not. And when you bypass the politicians, what you find is something that we've made no progress on in 6 years gets passed inside of a few months. Here, with question 1 in Massachusetts, 74.9% of the residents voted yes in favor of right to repair, and it was passed just like that. Many of you have asked why I haven't done something similar to that. Well, if you scroll down on the page, you'll see that the economic reality is that they spent something around $28 million here to get that done. It is not something that is that can be done cheaply. When I show up to legislatures to discuss a right to repair bill, we're discussing a copied and pasted bill from the automotive right to repair, and pretty much the only cost to me is the cost of the camera, my plane ticket, and my time. Whereas going for a direct ballot initiative is something that will cost millions upon millions of dollars. And it's something that many of you have encouraged me to go for. That if I opened a fundraiser, if I opened a nonprofit that sought to solely do this, that you would donate. And I've never really done it. And the reality of why I never really did it is because I was afraid of failure. I was afraid of losing. I was afraid of how I would feel if I lost. But I'm at a point now where I no longer care. I am getting to be in my mid-30s. This industry has been very good to me over the past 13 years or so. I have been able to go from having $268 in my bank account to having a business that can employ over a dozen people, pay a livable wage, allow our customers to save money, allow us to see the smiles on our customers' faces when we save them money or get them back pictures or data that they thought was gone, that the manufacturer told them was gone. And there's nothing that is more rewarding to me than when someone sends me a story saying that, I used to work at Walmart as the greeter, and now I have my little home repair business. I have time. I can work on my schedule. I have time to spend with my kids, and I make more money. Thank you for getting me into this. It's very rewarding, and I want to make sure that this exists for the next generation as well, the opportunities that were made available to me. And I see them going away. So what I've done is I've created a 501c4 organization called Repair Preservation Group Action Funds. And no, I was not thinking about the acronym when we came up with the name. So I have two organizations. One is a 501c3 that has some funding, and that is limited with regards to the type of lobbying it can do. It's going to be able to provide educational materials that help out people that want to repair their own devices and help out people that want to be able to start their own repair shops. I intend to utilize that organization to continue providing the type of educational material that I've provided on this channel over the years that help people learn how to do repairs that they otherwise wouldn't have known how to do. But that type of organization is limited in the type of lobbying it can do. A C3 can only spend about 20 or 25% of its time lobbying. And that's not enough. So what I've done is I've created a 501c4 that can lobby with its funds without limitation. And I've opened up a fundraiser that is here on GoFundMe.com, where the goal is $6 million to get Right to Repair passed. What I would like to do with these funds is hire the firm that was able to get Right to Repair passed automotive last year and have them do the same thing that they did for automotive for us. Get a direct ballot initiative on the ballot in Massachusetts and do the work necessary to help us get it passed. What I would like to do is spend the next 2 years of my life dedicated to getting a right to repair bill passed in Massachusetts as a direct ballot initiative and then go from there. This is something that I haven't pushed for in spite of people saying that I should for years because I was always afraid of failure. And what I'm realizing now is that your default position, if you do nothing, is failure. My fear is that if I fail when the only cost is my hotel, my plane ticket, and my camera that I take with me that the TSA occasionally destroys to do a YouTube video on our hearing, then it's not really that bad. Whereas if I fail when I go big, that'll feel worse. But the reality is that by doing nothing, that in and of itself is failing. We are at a point where you can't even buy a charging chip anymore for a lot of the devices that I work on because they have restricted the manufacturer from being able to sell something as basic as a charge chip to us. This is getting worse in every single industry. And if we don't start pushing back against it, we will, in the future, likely live in a world where we own nothing. And I assure you, we will not be happy with it. I don't see myself as a professional activist or the head of a social justice movement, a politician, or a lobbyist. I'm really just a guy with a repair shop that wants to clean up his own corner of the world, who sees it getting messier and messier with each passing day. And we're not always going to agree. We're not going to agree on everything. And I can't promise you that I'm going to win. What I can promise you is that over the next 2 years, I will put my life on hold to put a full-time 100% effort into getting Right to Repair passed in the state of Massachusetts as a direct ballot initiative, and that this will be my focus. And I'm going to be taking a very, very aggressive approach as I do this. I'm not going to be pulling any punches when I hear misinformation or fear, uncertainty, and doubt being spread by manufacturers and lobbyists reading off of scripts, and I'm not going to be pulling any punches when it comes to getting people outside of the YouTube and Reddit sphere of influence to know what Right to Repair is and to get them to be invested in it and care about it the same way that we do. I'm also going to make a pledge to not use this nonprofit for personal enrichment. There is nothing that makes people more cynical when it comes to nonprofits than realizing that they call themselves a nonprofit, yet the president takes home $800,000 or $900,000. Look up CompTIA, a registered nonprofit. Take home $900K. It's something that I found out when I did my commercial on them last year because they were lobbying against Right to Repair. I believe that people should be compensated for their time, and I have no problem with people making lots of money. But if it's a nonprofit, then $900K. It doesn't make as much sense to me. I have a business that puts me in a very unique position. I have employees that have been here for 7-8 years that are very, very loyal, that would be able to manage the business in my absence. And every now and then, 1% of you are kind and gracious enough to turn off ad block for a video or two so that there can actually be some YouTube revenue coming in from time to time. So I have the luxury to take a few years off and be able to focus on this. So even if YouTube revenue goes down or the business revenue goes down because of COVID or New York becoming a mess or any of that, that I've lived a frugal enough life up to this point. I live in the same apartment that I did over 10 years ago in the same crappy neighborhood, wear the same $5 t-shirts, that I can put years of my life into this without having to draw money from the organization. So I will be putting a full-time effort into this. It will be an aggressive effort, and I am not going to be using the funds from this organization for my own personal enrichment. You'll see when the 990 comes out at the end of the year that I'm not paying myself a salary from this. I realize that a year from now, when the DCA does something stupid or New York does something stupid or Susan demonetizes this channel or something, that I'll wind up kicking myself in the ass for it. But I'm fairly certain that that's not something to be worried about. I have a tendency to repeat myself when I do these videos, so I'm going to call it quits at this point in the video. That's my pitch. I want to get right to repair passed. I want to go for it in a state that has a history of voters that voted for it and a legal apparatus and system where they were able to get right to repair on the ballot and win. When they were able to get that on the ballot and win, every other state, the car manufacturers changed the way that they dealt with independent repair shops. It wasn't something where they stopped selling to Massachusetts or where only people in Massachusetts could get their car fixed. It happened across the board. And that's what I'm going for here. And I'm gonna be shameless with it. If you're one of those people that bought Bitcoin when it was $1,000, if you're someone who bought GameStop at $4 and you watch this channel and you like what I do, listen, getting this passed is going to be $5 to $20 million. I can't do it on my own. I do need your help, and I'm going to be a little bit more shameless and going out there and actually, shaking my cup around and seeing what I'm able to get. I've never used this channel to try and shill Audible or NordVPN or get you to buy shitty hardware or any of that crap. I haven't really used this as an influencer channel, but I am going to try and actually pull that influencer card and see what we can do. Hopefully I'll be able to utilize and leverage this channel to actually make the world a bit of a better place for consumers and repair shops alike. There's a link down below for the fundraiser, and if you are one of those people that bought GameStop at $4 and sold at $3.50 and you have an amount of money that you'd like to donate that you don't feel comfortable putting through a website, I will include an email in the description down below if you'd like to work out sending a check or some other form of donation. We may disagree on every single economic, political, and social issue. And even if we disagree on everything, I still trust you more than I trust most politicians to vote in favor of the consumer's best interest. And that is the power of a direct ballot initiative. It's that the consumers are actually going to get to vote on something that affects them rather than somebody else. Thank you very much for watching and listening over this past 8 years. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Let's get this bill passed.